So I'm here with Fanny Calder from the WWF, and you've done some research recently about changing attitudes towards the environment. I just wondered if you could sort of talk me through that.
Yeah, so we've just done a poll because we wanted to find out whether the British public was as concerned about the environment as we are, which is something we really wanted to know in the context of the general election. It's really important that the next government makes the environment crisis, the crisis in nature and climate, a priority, and they're only going to do that if the public want them to. So we wanted to see what the public was feeling. What we found out is that 81% of voters are concerned about the environment, and that actually the really interesting figure is that where the environment ranks in people's concerns has gone right up. But when we look at the polling we've done, actually environment is ranking ahead of Brexit for people. So the NHS and healthcare is number one, then comes environment, and then Brexit's below that.
It's interesting. So you're trying to say that environmental issues have become inherently more political, at least with the standard voter. And that must be a good thing, right? Because a lot of the change that really needs to happen over the next, ideally, 10 years needs to come from a higher body. It needs to come from regulation, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. I think that there's been a slight problem in the way that people have thought about the environment and climate change and plastics and things like that. There's been a tendency for people to feel that we've all got to, take individual action, and we do. We absolutely all need to change the way we live. We need to change the food we eat. We need to change the way we heat our homes. We need to change the way we get around. But we can't do any of that unless the government supports us, unless the government makes the investments we need and puts the policies in place that really drive change so that we can be a part of something bigger. I think everybody feels it sort of feels, this is literally the future of the planet and we can't do it by ourselves, and that's where the government really needs to step in.
What are some of the policies and sort of actions that the WWF are wanting to happen?
Well, what we've done in this election is we've put together a manifesto for all the government, for all the political parties, and our challenge to them is that we need to really restore nature is really at the top of our list, and that's not just because we don't have enough wildlife around us anymore, and it's not just because we've lost 60% of wildlife over the last 50 years. Those are tragic figures, but because actually if nature doesn't come back, we've got no chance of taking on the climate crisis. So we need to stop destroying forests in places like Brazil. We need to really bring nature back here and across the planet. So that's one of the things we're calling for. We also, there's no question that we need to make a huge priority ending our contribution to climate change. And that means that we need to absolutely wean ourselves off fossil fuels. So we've got to start fueling warming our houses in different ways. We've got to start having different kinds of transport, lots more public transport. All of those things are things that we're calling on the next government to prioritise. And we're also, in order to deliver all of that, we think the government needs to really change the way in which it's spending money. So we need to, at least 5% of government spending needs to be spent on tackling these crises, because we can't afford to all super insulate our homes, which is something that we've all got to do because we've got to use less energy to heat them. We can't all afford to just get into buy an electric car next year. In fact, we actually don't want people to be driving as much. We want people to be able to get around really easily without having to be dependent on cars. All of that requires investment.
I wanted to ask what the ordinary person can do then in order to try and push for this change.
Okay, well, there's lots you can do with us, but I think one thing that people underestimate is if you really care, go and tell your local MP how much you care. You don't have to be an expert, but if you want to take facts and figures, there's loads on our website. But it's that face-to-face conversations or personally written letters have far more impact than signing petitions. And we still believe in petitions. They're a really good way of showing that lots of people care about something. But if you want to change things, engage with your MP and let them know that this matters to you, because the more people do, the more that will, as I say, that's going to help governments understand that this is really important, and it's going to give them the courage to take action.
I was just wondering where people can find out more information about this.
Well, we've got a website, wwf.org.uk. There's a lot there, and there'll be more there after the election about what we can do beyond the election. And we're going to be having a big focus on deforestation and particularly on deforestation in food at that point. So if you want to join us in our campaign, then that's the place to find out about it. But also there's loads of information about, about what people can do in their personal lives and all sorts of ways they can support us.